This is the ZNS Network, providing radio and high-definition television services for the entire Bahamas. ZNS Network is operated by the Broadcasting Corporation of the Bahamas. It is located at Harcourt Rusty Bethel Drive, Centerville, Nassau. Our programming is designed to inform, educate, and entertain. We invite you to join us.
The following is the preamble of the Constitution of the Commonwealth of the Bahamas, which was drafted on June 20th, 1973, and came into effect on July 10th, 1973. Whereas, 481 years ago, the rediscovery of this family of islands, rocks and keys, heralded the rebirth of the New World. And whereas the people of this family of islands, recognizing that the preservation of their freedom will be guaranteed by a national commitment to self-discipline, industry, loyalty, unity, and an abiding respect for Christian values and the rule of law. Now know ye therefore, we the inheritors of and successors to this family of islands, recognizing the supremacy of God and believing in the fundamental rights and freedoms of the individual, do hereby proclaim in solemn praise the establishment of a free and democratic sovereign nation founded on spiritual values and in which no man, woman, or child shall ever be slave or bondsman to anyone, or their labor exploited, or their lives frustrated by deprivation, and do hereby provide by these articles for the indivisible unity and creation under God of the Commonwealth of the Bahamas.
The hotspot that we have identified is confined to the eastern end of New Providence.
COVID preparation requires different facilities separate and apart from whichever facility we're going to manage the people that have heart disease, diabetes, surgical problems to deliver babies. And so we're doing both.
Compliance, unity, purpose, and prayer. Keywords extracted from what could best be described as a heavy-hearted update from the Prime Minister on COVID-19's impact on the Bahamas, whose numbers swelled by 6 overnight and whose death toll now stands at 1. Good morning, everyone. I'm Akash Lapinder, and this is your morning edition. Well, what up to Wednesday morning was only a suspicion was later that same day confirmed as the first COVID-19 death here in the Bahamas, and despite best efforts to avoid this. In this morning's top story, our Altavis Munnings takes a look at where the numbers stand, who are among the newly confirmed cases, and why Eastern New Providence is said to be the hotspot.
Ministry of Health officials have now confirmed 21 cases of the COVID-19 virus in the Bahamas. 16 in New Providence, 4 cases in Grand Bahama, and 1 case in Bimini. The Bahamas has also recorded 1 death, and 224 persons are in quarantine. Health officials identify case number 16 as a 61-year-old female with no history of travel, but is a contact of case number 12. Case number 12 remains hospitalized. COVID-19 case number 17 is a 67-year-old female with no apparent history of travel and no direct link to other cases. COVID-19 case number 18 is a 72-year-old male health care worker with no history of travel and is linked to a previous case. This patient has been hospitalized. COVID-19 case number 19 has been identified as a 59-year-old male with no history of travel and no direct link to other cases who remains hospitalized. COVID-19 case number 20 is a 96-year-old male with no history of travel and no direct link to other cases and remains hospitalized. COVID-19 case number 21 has been identified as 57-year-old Kim Johnson-Roll, who died on March 31st and is the first recorded death of COVID-19 in the Bahamas. Chief Medical Officer Dr. Pearl McMillan explained the Ministry of Health's plan on investigating the virus in Bimini during the Prime Minister's national press conference on Wednesday.
Certainly, our contact tracing would have begun in Bimini. So, the healthcare facility in Bimini, will, of course, need to be, sanitized. But we will be working with healthcare providers on the ground to ensure that we do the necessary contact tracing, as well as ensure that the health of our personnel is also protected. But the entire Bimini community, to my knowledge, is not under quarantine.
Health officials also continue to follow the condition of the other 15 COVID-19 positive cases.
We would have actually been moving persons from our Princess Margaret Hospital care to Doctors Hospital West. So we would have had a number of persons transferred down to the Doctors Hospital West care, where we have, by the end of the day, there will be 8. They're stable.
Okay.
They're stable. We don't have any that we have any, excessive amount of concern. They're all stable.
Prime Minister, the Most Honorable Dr. Hubert Minnis, announced at his press conference that Eastern New Providence has been considered a hotspot for the COVID-19 virus. Ministry of Health consultant Dr. Merceline Dalregis sheds more light on that issue.
When we look at the different options we have for surveys, be it rapid testing, be it temperature monitoring, these are some of the modalities, and quarantine, community quarantine. This is what we are reviewing now, and what are some of the best practices. We have plotted the cases, we've plotted the contacts, we've looked not only at the contacts, but we've looked at what the epicurve is showing us. So together, temperature monitoring, temperature surveillance, testing, rapid testing, which is not, it's a survey tool, not a diagnostic tool. And we're looking at the contacts in the hotspots that are having symptoms.
Altaviz Munnings, ZNS Network News.
Well, admittedly, COVID-19 is not the only crisis the Bahamas is facing. Just as Deputy Prime Minister and Minister of Finance, the Honorable Peter Turnquest, has revealed, and many Bahamians have long accepted, the Bahamas is in the fight of its life economically. This as the world has closed its borders, with the Bahamas following suit to prevent the further spread of the virus.
With no tourists coming to our shores now, and in the foreseeable future, tough times are here, and tough times are still ahead of us. This is one of the greatest challenges to the world economy in most of our lifetime. We do not know how long this will last, but we do know that we will overcome this virus.
Well, as you just heard, East New Providence is the area to watch for COVID-19, but many are questioning what is considered the East. To that, Health Minister, the Honorable Dr. Dwayne Sands, says the majority of cases lie east of East Street. Now, when we turn our attention to the Family Islands, the minister says all healthcare workers there have been trained to assist the surveillance team, those displaying COVID-19 symptoms.
95% of persons with COVID-19 have a mild form of the disease, meaning that they are able to walk about. They often do not need to be hospitalized. About 5% of people require hospitalization. Every single community has the ability to test, meaning a swab is passed through the nose all the way to the back of the throat and a sample of the secretions taken. That then has to come to New Providence, where the sophisticated equipment and the expertise is available to run that sample to identify the RNA from the virus. If it turns out to be positive, the patient can be, in most instances, managed in the community. A small percentage of people may get so sick that they have to be brought into New Providence, and we have made that commitment to see that that can happen.
Well, there are also heightened concerns in the event there's a suspected case on Abaco, an island still grappling with the impact of Hurricane Dorian last September. Here's what the minister said to that.
Abaco is actually quite well suited now, particularly in the aftermath of Dorian. We have been upgrading the clinical options, and in a collaborative effort with the University of Miami, we have significantly improved the options for management at the Abaco Clinic. That said, there are certain things that cannot happen in Abaco at this time, and that includes the critical care management, the ventilation, and the intensive care.
Well, as expected, the National Insurance Board seen a huge upswing in claims for unemployment benefits amid the COVID-19 pandemic. Minister responsible for the National Insurance Board, the Honourable Brent Roll, says the agency received approximately 17,000 claims, and that excludes people who are employed at major hotel properties, as officials are negotiating with them separately.
We are working with the hotels so that arrangements will be made to pay off their staff who are unemployed in a quicker way. Small businesses have been coming to us, and we hope to quickly process their applications. And, you know, we are working on two fronts.
Roll says staff of the National Insurance Board are processing applications for Bahamians that have been laid off generally, as well as working with the Ministry of Finance to deal with those who are self-employed in the tourism sector. And that includes jet ski operators and taxi drivers.
What we have done, though, is establish a platform and a small form that they could download to their telephone, fill out the application. It will be processed as quickly as possible. There are three things that we are looking for. We want to see a letter from the employer when it comes to the self-employed individuals. When it comes to the self-employed individuals, we're looking for an ID, an indication from Inland Revenue to check a business background, and then we will process.
The COVID-19 outbreak continuing its impact on education. Minister the Honourable Jeffrey Lloyd telling reporters that national examinations that were set to begin this week will have to be put off to another date. This as thousands of students across the Bahamas are already out of the classroom following the government's decision to close schools across the country until April 14th. The Minister of Education says BJCs were set to begin on Tuesday.
We have had to review our exam schedules, and we will continue to review it as the coronavirus determines how we should respond. There's no question that we're going to have to probably push the dates of the examinations back. When and how that is going to be accomplished, we cannot say at this time, but we are watching it very closely, and we are obviously consulting with our stakeholders, meaning the unions, our internal stakeholders, parents and students, and the private sector, private schools, that is, to make the best determination as to how we should proceed.
Coming up, we know many of you remain under stress due to COVID-19. A consultant psychiatrist has some answers for you. You're watching The Morning Edition. Stay with us.
The Ministry of Health wishes to advise members of the public that prevention is key during this flu season. Practicing good cough hygiene can make the difference between you and your loved ones getting the flu or spreading the influenza virus. Good cough hygiene habits include covering your mouth and nose with a tissue when coughing or sneezing, and proper disposal of the tissue in a trash bin. Coughing or sneezing into your upper sleeve near your inner elbow and not your hands when a tissue is not available. Avoiding the use of handkerchiefs and towels as they hold germs, becoming a nest for the virus. And frequently washing your hands with soap and water, which is listed as one of the most important steps you can take to avoid getting sick and passing the virus on to others. If you have any questions about how to practice good cough hygiene to avoid catching or spreading the flu, contact your nearest community clinic or the Health Education Division at the Ministry of Health. This message is brought to you by the Ministry of Health in partnership with the Public Hospitals Authority.
the latest news and highlights in Bahamian culture. Tune in to the new Junkadoo 242, Saturdays, 10 a.m. to 11:30 a.m. on the ZNS Radio and Television Network. Radio Bahamas 1540 a.m. on 104.5 FM and TV 13. Each week, host Arlene Nash Ferguson and Darren Bastian engages listeners with some of the movers and shakers of Junkadoo and Bahamian culture. Don't miss Junkadoo 242, Saturday at 10 a.m. to 11:30 a.m. on the ZNS Radio and Television Network.
Welcome back. COVID-19 fears forcing many to question their mental strength, but in the midst of the challenges, there are things you can do. In with us this morning to discuss mental wellness and offer needed solutions is consultant psychiatrist Dr. John Dillette. Dr. Dillette, welcome to the morning edition.
Well, first, good morning, Ms. Pinder. Good morning, Bahamas. It's a pleasure to be here. Thank you.
And it's certainly a pleasure having you with us. First things first, what's the state of mental health here in the country at this time?
Well, good news for everyone is just like our general medical services, mental health services are still available and are running. Obviously, we're encouraging persons in terms of social distancing, so there are some limitations and restrictions as a result. Persons are advised to only seek help if they are having emergent or urgent situations, so that we don't necessarily have too many people in one place. But for persons who need prescriptions or injections, those are still available. It's best to call your clinic, the Community Counseling and Assessment Center on Collins Avenue, or your local clinics such as Elizabeth Estates, Fleming Street, etc., to know what the availability is and when you should come. That way you won't have to worry about being in long lines or possibly social distancing issues being as a result. So call first. Services are still available, but limitations, and please only come if it's urgent so that we don't put anyone at risk.
Now, in the case of, before actually getting to a clinic, what should we do if someone becomes unstable at home during this point?
Yes. I think the first thing would be is to contact your physician. If you have a general practice physician, call them, get advice. There are clinics that are open. The Community Counseling and Assessment Center is there and can take your call and can advise you and tell you whether or not this is something that can be handled at that center, or is it something that perhaps you should go to the emergency room for. Obviously, we're discouraging people from just entering facilities and just showing up without first being triaged appropriately, because we don't want to put anyone at risk. We want for patients to be safe and also healthcare workers.
There's a lot of stress during this time. People are out of work, people have to deal with children, homeschool. That's stress upon stress upon stress. It leads to a lot of things happening, like, let's say, going through a breakup. How should one deal with that at this time?
So everyone in our society right now is going through enormous amounts of stress. When it comes to relationships, I would suggest to everyone, remember that it's not usually the best time to make life-changing decisions during a crisis. You prefer to be calm and cool and really have your thoughts composed before making those decisions. And remember that everyone handles stress differently. So irritability, anger, sadness, depression, substance misuse can all be affected when you're under significant stress. And when you have more than one crisis happening at the same time, we have to be patient and allow for persons to be able to kind of express themselves and not judge them so harshly in these very difficult times. So I would suggest, remember that before making those life-changing decisions. In either case, remember that this crisis will end. You will have an opportunity to work on your relationship as we move forward. There's going to be an avenue for us to get back to normalcy at some point. So right now, the most important thing is staying safe, being healthy, ensuring that this coronavirus crisis is dealt with, and then you're going to have an ample opportunity to deal with other life issues. So let's not be so judgmental. Let's not be too harsh on each other. Let's remember that we're all dealing with stress in our own unique ways, and let's work together. And right now, it's a time for the community to come together. Families need to come together. The community needs to come together. Other things we can kind of deal with as we move forward.
I know you stress the fact that you should remain safe at this point. What about those situations where there is abuse, though?
Well, obviously, in those situations, there are still services that are available. Crisis hotlines, the Royal Bahamas Police Force, etc. So those services are still ongoing. If persons find themselves in very difficult situations, please reach out to mental health care professionals and correctional services, police force, etc., for those issues. There's still help for those individuals. So I don't wish for persons to think that you're alone and that no one is there to help you, because those persons are still there. Just reach out and they'll determine the best way in which they can help you.
Give us some top tips for preserving your mental health in these times. Like I said, we have the parents homeschooling their children. We have the people who are on the front line. You know, some of them, like Dr. Sands alluded to yesterday during the town hall meeting, they're afraid to come home to their families. They haven't seen their families for a while. Some tips on how to get through all of this.
So first thing, everyone in the Bahamas, do not panic. That's the first thing. You can't make good decisions when you're extremely stressed and you're panicking. You make better decisions when you're a bit more calm and collected. First thing is exercise. And I know that there are restrictions in terms of where you can go and whatnot, like beaches, etc., but you can exercise at home, you can exercise in your own environment. Being able to get your heart rate up and exercise allows for frustration and stress to kind of dissolve and for you to become a bit more calm. It also releases natural chemicals called endorphins that give you natural highs. It helps to control your mood, make you feel happier. So those are things that are extremely important, and it can be anything from singing, dancing, anything else, sports, etc., that you can do in your home environment, of course. Don't go outside. Second thing would be simply engage in very, very fun activities. If you have kids, this is a chance to get them used to the old board games like Monopoly. You know, they can play video games, but it may be a time for telling stories in terms of grandparents to their children and grandchildren. It's a time to construct little things with your hands and paint and build. And so there's so many things that you can do in your home, probably things that people wanted to do for a while. This is a great opportunity for you to actually get those things done. Next thing, of course, would be get back in touch with your spirituality. You know, we all believe in something, and there are things that give us comfort during times of turmoil and crisis. Get back to that. Sometimes because we get kind of caught up in our lives and we're here and there and zipping and zooming, we forget some of the things that actually are very important to us that help to give us peace. So please pray. Please get back in touch with your spirituality. It will help to calm you during times of crisis and give you an anchor so that you're not going to be zipping and zooming. Every time the news comes out, you know, you're going to have one panic attack after another. And finally, positive thoughts make positive people. It is really, really true. There are reasons to be concerned. We all have to be concerned about this crisis, this pandemic. The truth of the matter is, though, that the chances of any one of us contracting this virus is still relatively low. If we adhere to the policies and guidelines that are being set out by our health professionals and the Prime Minister and government services. So if we do that, our chances are fairly low. Be positive. Don't be someone who's thinking negatively constantly and worrying about the worst case scenario. Remain positive. Be a beacon of hope for yourself and for your family. It will help to change your environment. It will help you to get through this crisis, and you'll be a better person and a stronger person coming out of this crisis, because there will be another one of some type in our lifetimes. And so we have to remember that this is just the current crisis. We have to be prepared for many as we move forward.
Well, there you have it from Dr. John DeLed. Positivity certainly counts in times like these. Well, it goes without saying that social distancing a must when it comes to minimizing any chance of contracting COVID-19. But according to technologyreview.com, there are certain things you should do when you leave and come back home. One of them, run errands together and during off-peak hours. That is, try to get as much done as possible in one swoop. Once back home, don't mix outside and inside clothes. Every time you get home, change both your clothes and shoes and wash as soon as possible. Technologyreview.com also suggests creating a dedicated re-entry zone. Use the space to disinfect your phone and keys. Take a shower after every outing. At bare minimum, wash your face and hands. If you have kids, don't exaggerate, or, like Dr. Dillett says, don't panic. Instead, teach them how to cough and sneeze into the crook of their arm and thoroughly wash their face and hands. And finally, get creative with their play dates. We're talking FaceTime or play video games with a friend, or you be their play date using perhaps, as suggested, board games. The impact of COVID-19 widespread. Even a horse stable located just a stone's throw away from downtown Nassau is feeling the pinch. Lloyd Allen visited that facility where the care of those animals remains a priority despite the nation remaining under a curfew.
In the midst of COVID-19, some businesses receiving some levels of challenges as it relates to accessing necessary supplies. But one business, the Surrey business, remains challenged, and despite that, business owners say horses and maintaining them remains a love. The Surrey experience remains closed off to the public as the 24-hour curfew remains in effect, at least until April 8th. But for a number of Surrey operators, though it may not be business as usual, the operational cost for the business continues to mount.
Well, we still have to feed these animals. And hay is not cheap at all in the Bahamas. They have to have feed, and they also have to have hay. And it's very, very expensive. Because we don't have no income coming in, but we still have to maintain these animals.
Owner and operator of Don Stewart Stable, Philip Cryer, says each horse requires food and care, and regardless of the curfew, daily needs continue at the stable.
Each particular horse, if you really do the calculation, you could spend like close to $150 per horse, because these horses are in stables. Every day you have to come and care for these animals in terms of taking them out, walking, and making sure that nothing has been wrong with these horses while they're in the stable. Overnight, you don't know what could happen to them. So every day you have to come, change water, make sure they have clean water, and make sure they stable clean.
But all is not grim. He says the silver lining has come in the form of rest for the animals.
It has been good because the horses, like you say, they have got a lot of rest. And it also gave the horses a chance to take a breather and put a little bit of weight back on. We did have some horses lose a little bit of weight, but nothing really too big to talk about. But this period has been really good for the horses in terms of getting back fit and back in the condition that they needed to be in.
But according to Cryer, the Bahamas Humane Society has assisted with providing some of the hay for the animals and some medical assistance. However, he is looking forward to the day when his 6 horses return to Bay Street, helping tourists to experience a little taste of the Bahamas. Reporting from the Dawn Stewart Stable, Lloyd Allen, ZNS Network News.
You're with the Morning Edition. Quite a number of positive activities surfacing under the COVID-19 lockdown. More of those coming up for you.
ZNS is everywhere you are when you download the new ZNS app. Watch our live channel to keep up with what's going on in the nation. News updates, we've got you covered. Tune into our radio stations with just a swipe. On the road, on the go, we're here with you. Available for download on the App Store and the Google Play Store.
Across the entire span of the Bahamas, there is a strategic spread of national parks which play a vital role in protecting the survival and well-being of diverse wildlife, as well as Bahamian livelihoods. The Andrews Westside National Park, for instance, consists of thriving bonefish populations, the healthiest stands of red mangroves found in the Bahamas, breeding and nursery areas that support wildlife such as snappers, groupers, lobsters, and threatened and endangered species like marine turtles, the Andrews rock iguana, and the flamingo.
If we do not effectively safeguard our natural treasures, vital habitats, which include nursery and breeding areas, will become vulnerable to a number of threats impacting the way we live. We must remember to do our part to maintain the integrity of the natural environment. Remember, if we take care of nature, nature will take care of us.
Hi, I'm Stuart Cove, and for many years, I've taken pride in introducing young Bahamians and international visitors to the wonders of our Bahamian underwater world. Our marine ecosystem helps to keep our tourism industry and fisheries sector healthy and lucrative. We must all do our part in protecting it for future generations. And that is why I ensure our staff and customers are taught about the importance of coral reefs. I do this and more to protect our underwater life because I care. Do you?
Welcome back to the morning edition. A local company is showing its appreciation to essential employees working around the clock during this crisis. Anthony Smith has the story.
For junior doctor Amir Sultani, a good cup of joe makes all the difference.
For me, coffee is very essential to keep me going.
That's why he, along with other essential service workers, have found themselves at Cafe Channing Noel, a local patisserie offering free coffee to law enforcement and healthcare workers on the front lines of COVID-19.
We just want them to know that we're here for them, especially the officers who patrol late at night, about 7 o'clock in the morning or somewhere between 7 and 9 a.m. We have an influx of those officers, and we're happy to be here to offer complimentary coffee and tea to them. The nurses who have been on call all night, we're happy when they walk in the door.
Taking their cue from the enactment of the country's emergency order, the corporate citizens have been paying it forward for almost 2 weeks. And for the essential workers on the receiving end, they say a caring cup of brew takes the load off.
When you walk in here, it feels like home. Loretta, all the people that work here, they're very nice people. You know, it's a place where, you come have a quick conversation, get your cup of coffee, and then, go about your day,
Well, patisserie creative director Loretta Thomas says, as a wife of a doctor, doing her part to help healthcare workers in such a critical time is personal. And for those workers who are too tired or don't have the time to come in, the staff at the patisserie is prepared to go the extra mile.
There is a police officer or precinct that actually would like to have a carafe of coffee. We'll be happy to either drop it off or they can send someone to collect it. So we have large carafes, and we can actually drop off, I would say, about 3 to 4 gallons of coffee, and we'll be happy to do so. Just give us a call.
Antoinette Smith, ZNS Network News.
So you're under a 24-hour curfew and still left twiddling your thumbs. Well, one local resident says if you've got some yard space, consider growing some greens. Getting your hands dirty, according to this Morden farmer, may just do some good. Lloyd Allen has more.
It's being dubbed survival gardening. In the midst of the coronavirus, the country remains under a 24-hour curfew. However, some locals are tilling the soil in an attempt to grow their own greens while practicing social distancing. Angliston resident Damian Turner says his home garden started long before COVID-19, with his harvest surfacing just in time.
My mom inspired me to do the backyard gardening. At first, I was just doing ornamental along the sides of the fence, and I had a lot of grass in the backyard, and I had to cut this grass. And the idea came to me, why not grow foods that we could eat? There are 6 of us in the home, and the foods that I grow supplement our diet.
Turner says his variety is small, but includes some essentials for the needed nutrients amid the COVID pandemic.
I grow beets, cassava, tomatoes, purslane. I also have papaya. I also do plantain.
Turner has even discovered an ingenious method to create his own soil, particularly for his tomatoes.
I actually went on YouTube and found a way to make my own calcium phosphate by using eggshells and apple cider vinegar. And I was able to make my own calcium.
With many uncertain on the quality of some food products, Turner offers this advice.
Especially during this time, is to try to grow as much food as possible. That way you know exactly what you're putting in your body. Try to eat as much whole foods as possible. Whatever you like to eat, grow that. Get the seeds, plant them in the ground, especially if you know it's going to rain or if it's raining. That's when you throw your seeds out. And also start with plants that are easy to grow. Your peas, they are easy to grow. Pumpkin seeds, just throw the pumpkins at your back door. If they need watering, at least when you open up your back door, they're right there.
Keeping it in the family, Turner's cousin Derica Clark, too, has her own garden. Although not a medical practitioner, Clark uses some of the greens in the garden as teas, replacing the store-bought brands.
You could boil the moringa, you could boil the neem, you could boil the fever grass, you could boil the basil, and you could drink them.
So if you are stuck at home, using your green thumb may not kill COVID-19, but it will keep you busy and can help to produce some healthy snacks for the family. For the morning edition, Lloyd Allen, ZNS Network News.
Well, Bahamian heavyweight boxer Sherman the Tank Williams, who resides in Florida, was preparing for an upcoming fight in Copenhagen, Denmark this month. But that was dealt a blow due to the coronavirus outbreak. He's now back in Florida trying to keep safe.
Got back from Denmark last month. We had a successful January. February started well. You know, the next fight was scheduled for April 18th, and we're actually supposed to have been in camp now. Denmark, Copenhagen has been in total shutdown for the last 4 weeks right after I left. And I got home to Florida to realize that we facing the same challenges. You know, I spoke with the other fighters, and I think everybody's optimistic. Everything at this point is in God's hands. And, you know, trying to stay busy, stay positive. My family and I, we're doing everything that's recommended by President Trump and the CDC, keeping the safe distance, and just being mindful. You know, the cleanliness and keeping the hand clean, that's second nature.
Williams admonishing everyone to follow the rules.
We're going to get through this. It's hard on my family, on your family, and everybody else right now. It's a financial distress, and maybe it's, you know, it's a message from God. I mean, I think it's somewhat of a phenomenon that we have this pandemic. We made plans, and we see that sometimes it don't go as planned, or God have his own plans. But hope everybody stays safe in the Bahamas. Follow the government restriction, whatever the Prime Minister and the Health Minister says. I strongly urge people to follow the recommendations. This ain't no joke. If you look at what's going on in New York, I talk with a few athletes and a lot of people. These people are really getting sick. New Orleans, Louisiana. So this is no time to, you know, go outside of the restrictions. Whatever the Prime Minister and the Minister of Health put in place is for the betterment and the protection of everybody in the Bahamas. Because the only way we can get through this is, one, to listen, to follow and obey. And second of all is to keep God first. I mean, at the end of the day, we humble right now, and all we can do is pray. I mean, nobody know why and when, but we got to deal with it. And I think we're going to get through this, but most importantly, we got to follow the guidelines.
Well, a good spot there to turn to our pastoral motivation of the day. Here is Apostle Senior Pastor Brenda Pratt from Global Workshop Center.
Greetings, my brothers and sisters all across the beautiful Bahama land. It's such an honor to speak these words of encouragement to you from the word of the Lord in these times of global crises. The word of the Lord declares, look unto the hills, from whence cometh your help. Your help still comes from the Lord who made heaven and earth. And so we want to continue to trust in God. We want you to continue to look unto him. He's the author and the finisher of your faith. And we just speak encouragement from Abaco in the north to Inagua in the south. God is with us. This is his Bahama land. Do not doubt. Do not allow the spirit of fear to overwhelm you during these trying times. But the Lord has promised to supply all of your needs and that he will never leave you nor forsake you. So be blessed. Continue to encourage one another. Spend this time with family. Enjoy your family and then come together for times of refreshing and prayer, and know that God is about to just give us a great experience, and a great surprise is ahead of us. He's going to bring us out. He's going to bring us through. God bless you. Continue to trust in the Lord.
Welcome to Sunshine Oil,
your hottest place on the planet for rims, tints, tires, and auto sales. We are your auto superstore for rims, Lexani, Azaras, Trueform, Western, Lux, Fuel, Track Lights, Tough, Rough Racing, Velocity, Mud, All-Terrain, and low-profile tires. Cars, homes, and commercial window tinting. At Sunshine Auto, we put God first and customer is king. Blessed luck.
This public service announcement is brought to you by the Communications section of the Ministry of Education in conjunction with the Broadcasting Corporation of the Bahamas.
School is closed, but we are not on vacation. Often check the Ministry of Education's social media platform for accurate updates on your studies and national exams. These include the website at www.ministryofeducationbahamas.com and the Ministry of Education's Facebook page at Ministry of Education Bahamas or Twitter at Bahamas MOE. Do not listen to fake news. It's safer and smarter.
This public service announcement was brought to you by the Communications section of the Ministry of Education in conjunction with the Broadcasting Corporation of the Bahamas.
Bahamian music is just like it says, you know, it's music about our culture, the way we live, you know.
It's a mixture of a lot of things that make up who we are.
Some people say there's gombe, I heard calypso, I heard rake and scrape, you know, junkanoo. So we have to decide what name we're going to give it.
When it comes to a Bahamian dabbling in other genres of music, you're just a Bahamian who's doing rap or reggae or soca or whatever have you. That doesn't necessarily make it Bahamian.
This is the only country in the world where you can hear more foreign music than your own.
And now to our morning commute. For that, we turn to our Lloyd Allen, who joins us from the Blue Hill Road roundabout with your morning traffic.
The traffic report is sponsored by Bahamas First. First in insurance. Today, tomorrow.
Yes, good morning, Makusha. Good morning, Bahamas. And to all of our viewers, this morning you're looking at an initial drone shot. This one in the area of Tonic Williams-Tolerant Highway. That's the roundabout that connects with Blue Hill Road. As you can see, some vehicles still on the road. We've spoken with police throughout the entire week as they've updated us. Many persons still not recognizing that 24-hour curfew and remaining on the street. Some good news, however, some fine-tuning as those emergency orders continue to come out from government officials, guiding people on what they can do and how to best maneuver. As we've been told before, persons over the age of 75 should remain working from home. If you're between the ages of 65 to 74, again, you should be working from home. And all persons by now should have selected a designated shopper for their specific households. Of course, as we spoke with police yesterday, they told us that many persons still giving a myriad of excuses as to why they remain on the streets and not obliging that curfew. And we want to warn persons as well. The curfew isn't just for your own safety, but it's for the safety of all persons who are on the streets. Also, from our drone shot, you may have already seen, or you may see in a minute, right above Avadley School. That's a public school that remains closed. All those schools across the country remaining closed continually, as nearly 60,000 students across the country remain working from home virtually. And we want to remind students as well that additional information can be retrieved from the Ministry of Education site to guide you through that process. Now, we haven't heard yet as it relates to persons who may not have access to online sources, that's a tablet or a device to access those classes, but I would urge all parents to make contact with their schools or teachers so that they can be on board with whatever efforts are being made to continue with education. But of course, as we're wrapping up from this area, again, we want to remind persons that many emergency personnel remain on the streets. We've seen many persons from many of those delivery companies, many of those waste management companies and waste utility companies. They've been on the streets working hard, medical personnel as well. When we arrived here this morning, we saw several police on those mobile patrol bicycles, again, making the rounds and ensuring that persons remain off the streets, making way for those emergency personnel. But of course, the emergency curfew and those orders remain in effect. Reporting to you from the area of Tonic Williams, Darling Highway and Blue Hill Road, Lloyd Allen, back to you guys there in studio.
Well, thanks a lot, Lloyd. It's now time for that morning get up and get exercise with downtown Natasha Brown. You have 4 exercises for us this morning, all geared towards the youngsters.
Yes, exactly. And good morning to all. And I just want to just encourage the parents at this time to make sure that the kids are getting to bed on time and that they're getting up early, they're getting their breakfast. And even if you're not able to do the segment with me, you can still go through the exercises, so when they have their moment to work out, you can just plug the exercises in. And just be encouraged and make sure the kids are eating properly. You don't want them to be eating too much sugary stuff because it's going to fluctuate their energy and it's going to have them feeling a little displaced when it's time to do schoolwork. So here we go. First exercises we're going to start off with is just nice shuffles to the sides. I'm just using the mat for a little guidance, but for you, you can just take your time, and it's just lateral shuffles. You want to do these 15 per side, 30 in total. And making sure they get their cardio and their conditioning in. So it will sustain them while they're doing their schoolwork. So we're going to do 8 more. 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, and 1, which sets us up for forward and reverse cross. So we're going to go forward, stop, and we want to do this for about 20 times, 10 forward and 10 reverse. 2 more times. Relax. Now we're gonna go in a seated position where we're gonna elevate the butt off the ground as you extend 1 foot into the air. You wanna touch up top to the toes. Again, you wanna do this for 20 or 30 reps. Last 2. Finally, we'll take it into sit-ups. You always want to make sure you've got some type of abdominal work in, because what it does, it helps with sleeping, your posture while you're sitting at the desk, and while you're standing and playing. Last 2. There you have it.
Well, the cameras were not on me, but I was doing some of those exercises on the side. And where do you get all this energy from?
Charles, the only way I'm going to be able to sustain me, I have to make sure that I am also fit. I'm getting my workout in, which I have to do every morning. And if you want to join me, I do have classes now online. You can message me on 426-6420 so I can send you the link. And if you don't have those equipment home, somehow we can work something out for you to get the equipment, because every day is something different.
And as the psychiatrist said this morning, exercise is very important during these times to get away some of that stress.
Yes, and you will be surprised to know how if you show up to a fitness segment, you may come heavy burden, but I guarantee you, a workout with downtown Natasha Brown will definitely solve that situation for you.
Well, thanks a lot, downtown Natasha Brown, for joining us this morning on the Morning Edition. When we come back, we're going to take a look at weather and, yes, those videos of what you've been doing to pass the time during COVID-19.
Hi, I am downtown Natasha Brown, and welcome to The Ultimate You.
What I love most about working for the Bahamas tonight is that we don't only focus on New Providence. We cover the entire Bahamas. We have a team here in the Northern Bahamas that is ready to bring you the stories, the people, and the news that matter to you. From point A to Z, from covering hurricanes to elections and everything in between.
The ZNS community page now has its own home on Channel 230. Be sure to tune into this channel to see informative notices, funeral announcements, birthday greetings, and much, much more. So watch the ZNS community channel today on Cable 230.
Well, it's time to take a look at our morning forecast, and we'll get you started with current conditions outside of our studios. We have partly sunny skies, temperature at 72 degrees, the relative humidity 64%, northeast winds at 9 miles per hour, the barometric pressure of 1,013.6 millibars, that's 29.95 inches, and the pressure is steady. Temperatures this morning in the islands at Marsh Harbour, it's 72 degrees, 70 degrees in Grand Turtle Key, 70 also in Freeport, Grand Bahama, in the Berry Islands, 73. Alistan, Bimini at 73, 72 in Harbour Island, Roxani, Lutra 73, Ardistan, Cat Island 73 as well. Stanley Keys 72, another 72 in Kemp's Bay, South Andros. In Freshwick, Central Andros, the temperature at 74 degrees. San Salvador 73 in Rum Key, 73 degrees. Ragged Island, Clarenstown, Long Island, Crooked Island, all reporting 75 degrees. We're picking up 78 in Betsy Bay, Maguana. Ackland's also at 78 degrees. Machitan and Agua 79, and the Turks and Caicos Islands at 79 degrees. And once again, if there are some outbound flights this morning, well, here are some high and low temperatures you're likely to find at selected cities. Do it for your travel forecast now. For those cargo vessels plowing our oceans this morning, well, here are your forecasts for today for all areas of the Bahamas. The winds are going to be north to northeast at 10 to 15 knots, and the wave heights 2 to 4 feet over the ocean. Low tide, 9:39 this morning. High tide will take place at 3:30 this afternoon. Now, for your forecast for today, satellite pictures showing that front boundary now smack across Crooked Island and Ackland. You can see some shower activity taking place there. That will continue to push towards the south and east and should leave the area by tomorrow. Behind that, high pressure will dominate our weather, so we're looking for some very cool nights for the next several days and pleasant days with temperatures in the low 80s, as you can see when we go to our 7-day forecast. Mostly sunny today, high temperature getting up to 79 degrees, and tonight, clear skies, very cool, around 66 degrees, and taking us through the weekend, we're looking at temperatures remaining in the 60s right through Sunday. Daytime temperatures dropping below the 80-degree mark, and we'll hold that 80 line as of Saturday. and that will hold through into the early part of next week. Commissioner?
Well, thanks, Basil. As you just heard this morning, key to surviving this crisis is tossing out those negative thoughts and dressing yourself up in some positivity. And to help you out, we're going to turn right now to videos and pictures of what some of you are doing during lockdown.
Mister, where you just coming from all day?
Miss, I been right up the road to buy some stuff.
Y'all look like y'all don't listen. The Prime Minister say only come out your house for essential things.
So what these days?
Now you look like you got my vexation. How them things get essential? How they get essential?
I locked down this house with you and these children all day.
Minutes he done told us not to leave our homes. You rushed out to cost right and all the food was gone, no toilet paper inside. That's when you knew that something was wrong. This loneliness you feel, I know you can't explain. Feeling locked up is driving you insane. You probably need a cold snack to go with those colleagues at home.
Shoot, I late for work. Wait. I forget we on 24 hours lockdown. Well, it's a weekday morning, sleep. The people quarantining, sleep.
Who are you talking to?
It's Jake from State Farm. Sounds like a really good deal.
Jake from State Farm at 3 in the morning? Who is this?
It's Jake from State Farm.
What are you wearing, Jake from State Farm?
Khakis.
Well, a reminder to send your videos, pictures showing how you're passing the time in the government-imposed lockdown, or if you want to salute those on the front line, the number, again, is 477-0546. That wraps up our morning edition. From all of us here, certainly have a terrific Thursday.
Is 11. They say we living in a dark, dark world, but I tell them say all good Lord go to heaven. Sweat, blood and tears, toiling all day. Watch as you grow, friends and family drift away. Why don't you stop? Continue to fight. Forgive them peace and
You're watching the ZNS Network, the People's Station.
We have a growing